Hi, I'm Lauren, and I'm super excited to be lighting it up with Whimsy Stamps and Pear Press. I have a really fun card for you, so let's get right to it. I chose from Whimsy Stamps this really cute set called Cast a Spell, and I have these lights from Pear Press. They are these really cool individual, super easy to use light up elements you can add to your projects, and they also come with these really thin batteries. So overall, the profile of this light up device is really thin and it's really great, and everything is included to make your cards have this light up interaction. You make sure that the positive is on the positive, slide that battery in, press the button, and 3 LEDs light up. So I'm going to use the large wizard stamp from Cast a Spell, and I'm so excited. I think he's so cute, and I love the sentiment, "May your day be filled with magic." So I am trimming down my mixed media paper so that it is 4 by 5.5. I originally planned to just put this onto a card base, but you'll see towards the end of the video when I start putting everything together, I will trim this down. But I want to make sure my sentiment is centered, so I'm using my fun little Misty tools to make sure it's centered and straight. And then I'm going to place my wizard underneath the sentiment. The nice thing about the Misty is that you can make sure your images are centered, and well, not just Misty, any type of stamp placement tool. And I'm using all my different magnets to make sure my paper stays in place. And then I'm going to stamp this guy up with my VersaFine and Onyx black ink. I'm going to use my Zig watercolor pens. So I want to emboss my images to make sure that my water stays inside of the lines. This, having that embossing ridge just helps with keeping your watercolors in place. So now that it's stamped, I'm going to use some clear embossing powder, and then I'm going to use a little brush just to wipe off any stray embossing powder, and then put it away because I have a tendency to knock things over and I really didn't want to spill that embossing powder everywhere. And I'm using my embossing heat gun to emboss my sentiment and my wizard. So the colors I'm going to choose are this really pretty blue. At the time of actually recording this video, it is the anniversary of my dad's passing, and my dad was a magician and he always wore blue. He had an act with his friend and he always wore blue. So I thought that I would make this card. It was fitting that I chose a magician wizard, just in remembrance of my dad, and I think he would really love this card at the end. So I'm coloring the hat in this really pretty blue watercolor, and I'm using my watercolor brush to bring that color out. So I color around the edges where I want my paint to be a little darker, and then use that watercolor pen to bring out the color so it's a little lighter towards the center or wherever I want my light to be casting onto my images. So because it's just a large image, my light source is going to be the front of the card, or the center front of the card. So I went ahead and colored the rest of his robe in that same blue, and now I'm using some peachy and light brown colors to put in his skin color. So I do his face and his hands. I wasn't sure if he was going to be wearing gloves at first, so I had a small hesitation of, do I want to color this in? But then I decided, no, he's going to have just bare hands. So I color those in with those kind of skin tony colors. And then I'm using this light gray to add in where there is the kind of fuzziness to his hat and coat, just because I want that fuzziness to be white, the collars of everything, and the hat to be kind of like a white fuzz. I don't even know if fuzz is the right word, fluff. And so I'm using the lightest gray just to make sure there is some type of shadow and that it's not just, there's no dimension to it. And then I wanted my wizard, his mustache and beard, to be a darker gray. I didn't want it to be all white hair on top of the white fuzz of his coat and hat. So I'm using a darker warm tone gray to color in his eyebrows and his beard and his mustache, and fill all of that in with that warm gray color. Next are the shoes. I'm using a cool gray color. I was going to color them black, but then I was worried it would look too dark, so I'm using pretty much the next color before black, which is this darker cool toned gray. For the wand and his little magic book, I'm using this kind of a reddish orange, and I'm filling that in. Again, I want to make sure that I'm putting direct ink where I want the darkest of my paint to be, and then blending out the color to lighten it up. Now this is an old magic book, so the pages are going to be kind of an off-white yellow color because, you know, paper ages, and he's an old wizard with his old magic book. And now all of my stars are going to be in this golden tone yellow. So I colored the stars of my sentiment and all of the stars on his hat and his coat in this really pretty gold yellow color, and then again using that watercolor brush to blend out the color. And now I wanted to have his eyes be the same color as my dad's. My dad had these really piercing kind of wolf blue eyes, so I colored those in. And then I wanted to add a little more color than just the blue and gold, so I'm going to add more color to this dragon. My daughter said it should be a purple and green dragon, so coloring in those horns, his wings, and the little spikies of his back and tail, as well as his belly in this really pretty purple color. And then I'm going to color the rest in green. I couldn't really figure out what color green I was imagining, so I'm using this kind of grass green color, and then I'm also going to bring in a bit of a neon green, and I thought if I blended those together with my watercolor pen here, it would, you know, come out with that green that I was looking for, and I really did. I really liked how it turned out. Now I was thinking for the magic part of his wand, well, after I color the orange of his little fire coming out, I don't know if he's holding like his own wand or if that's fire coming out of his nose. So I went with fire out of his nose. He's blowing steam over here. And so for my magic, I originally wanted to do maybe like a purple color, but then my daughter was like, no, bad guys have purple color magic. She's like, I've been watching some shows with wizards and all the bad wizards have purple. So I was like, okay. So I went with yellow. Yellow is for good guys of his magic wand here. And now that my magician and his dragon are all dry, I'm going to cut out where I want my 3 LED lights to shine through. So 2 of my LEDs are going to be behind the stars of my sentiment. So I know I colored them in, but that's because I'm going to cut out the star and it's not going to be right up against the line. So I still wanted that yellow in my stars. And I'm cutting just inside of the line. So there still is a little bit of yellow. And I'm not, you know, it's not perfect inside. I'm just using my retractable knife and getting in there and just trimming around the line. And I'm going to do both sides because 2 of my LEDs are going to go behind, 1 each behind those stars. So once those are both cut out, now I need to think about how my 3rd LED is going to shine in behind my magic wand here. So I zoomed in a little bit so you can kind of see more of what I'm doing here. I'm following the line of one of my little magic cloud puffs. They're kind of look like clouds, so I'm following along the edge and then just creating a little slit. So going a little higher and creating a little slit for the magic, little holes within the magic puff. How many times can I say magic in that sentence? It's kind of hard to explain. I just picked some random spots where I thought it would look really pretty with light shining through. Again, following the edge of my little magic cloud puff and then cutting above it to make a little slit in the paper. And then now that those are done, I can start putting my card together. I am gonna go through my stash and I figured, oh, this would look really pretty. I love this magical paper. It has some shimmer to it, but the purple was just off. It wasn't the same as my dragon. So I thought, okay, let me try this Lawn Fawn shimmery paper. This purple looked a little closer. And then I was like, wait, I have more shimmery paper. I was like, maybe this blue or this, white one would look good. And I eventually settled on that white color. I thought it was really pretty. It added shine without being overwhelming. And then I picked out this blue, which matched my magician's coat fairly well. I didn't have the exact color, but I thought this was close enough. And I went ahead and made that a top folding A2 size card. So now I'm going to trim down my white sparkle paper, and I want to leave a 1/4 inch all the way around. So my A2 size card is 4 1/4 by 5 1/2. So I'm trimming down this sparkle paper to 3 3/4 by 5. So that would leave a 1/4 inch all the way around. And because I hate just wasting sparkle paper, I just took a 1/2 inch and went around and made it into a frame. So there wasn't just a bunch of sparkle paper not being used underneath my card. And maybe that makes me a little cheap, but that's okay. So now I'm trimming down my image so that way it's 1/8 of an inch smaller all the way around as my sparkle paper. So when I layer it up, there's a little bit of sparkle shining through, and then there's a good amount of blue of the card base shining behind that. So now I'm going to use my tape runner, and I'm going to glue down my little sparkle frame using my glass mat as a guide, laying down that sparkle paper frame onto my card base. Because I am going to pop up my stamped images because I do need a little bit of space for my awesome pear blossom, that rhymed, battery device in here. So I have this Push Here stamp set from Lawn Fawn, and I went ahead and embossed that as well, just to keep everything the same on the front of my card. And now I'm going to cut a piece of vellum. I like to diffuse lights in my cards by using vellum. And I'm going to use some glue just to adhere that down to the back side of my card. Now I want my stars and my magic to still have that yellow look to it, so I'm just using some alcohol markers and I'm coloring it first in yellow behind where the stars and magic are, and it's too light. So then I bring out more of a golden color alcohol marker for my pro markers and color it again, making it a little orangier, which I thought looked better. So now that that is done, it's time to arrange my Pear Blossom device and figure out where those LEDs are going to sit. So I want to make sure that my device stays in place. So I'm going to use some Scotch tape just to hold my device in place while I put on some strong double-sided sticky tape. So I have some score tape here in 1/8 of an inch, and I'm just going to put 3 of those down. I want to make sure that guy stays secure when it's inside my card. And put that down, and then I'm going to arrange my lights. So it's great that you can just use some simple Scotch tape to hold everything down. So then I realized that I wanted my device at a bit of an angle because I am going to use some double-sided foam tape to go all the way around before I put it on my card. So I put it at an angle so I could get as much of that foam tape around my battery device. So now I am curving my LED and wires in place. You don't want to bend the wire, so I'm just wrapping them around in a circle, and I'm making sure my LED is facing the vellum. So the lights are facing the vellum. You don't want them facing the back side. They won't be as bright. And once I have all that in place, I'm going to take my foam tape. I double stacked it by folding it over itself, and I'm just cutting it and going around the edge. So now that that is done, I'm going to place it onto my card base. I want to make sure it's in the right spot, so I'm only taking off the release paper off the bottom half as well as behind my battery here. And I'm going to put that down onto my card base. And now that it is in the right position, everything looks great. I can take off the rest of the release paper and easily lay that on down, making sure everything stayed center. And I have to push my push here a few times because it makes sure it's working, and of course it's fun, so I do it. And now I'm taking my sparkle silk and painting in some of that glitter onto the magic and then sprinkling the rest around my card. And now I have these really pretty holographic star sequins, and I'm just going to place those in various spots around the card using my jewel picker. I thought because they have a little bit of a purple tint to them, it would look really pretty and match that sparkle paper and my little dragon. I have those in place where I want them, so now I'm just going to use some wet glue and glue those down. I really love how this card turned out. It makes me think of my dad, and it's so fun. Here is a close-up of the card so you can see how I cut out those stars, and with my daughter's help, how it looks with the lights off. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to click the link in my description below to go to the next hopper. Have a great day.